Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your attention. I get the honor of chairing a conversation with some TechBridge directors. And I won't spend much time going through their vita. I'll let them do that. They're all august members of a truly phenomenal new way of the Navy engaging with industry, okay? Which is pretty awesome. I want to say, none of you come with a lot of cash? No? All of you come
You've been the cash man for a long time with Sivert.
Yeah, I know. You all come with an incredible Rolodex, though, yes, in perspective with working with the Navy. It wasn't so long ago that the Navy was arrogant enough to go, I got a base, you come see me. And we realized that doesn't work anymore. And with that, these are the outposts at our bases. Each one of them is different. I would like you to spend a few minutes telling us about you, and then give me one important fact about your TechBridge. So with you, Mark.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mark Thompson. We're at the Ventura TechBridge, myself and Alan, and we have a Naval counterpart also. So I am the Office of Research and Technology Applications Manager. Long story short, for a long acronym, the Technology Transfer Program Manager for the One Warfare Center for NAVFAC, which is our Engineering and Expeditionary Warfare Center. So we joined forces to create Ventura TechBridge. I think the thing that I'll throw out as what sets us apart from some of the other tech bridges, and they're all great doing their own things to the needs of the Warfare Center and the local community. But when I came here yesterday, when I left and sat in, to their point, traffic is not getting better. When I drove here yesterday, I left our tech bridge right before I came here, and I met with one of the Tor Water. I think you're sitting somewhere in the middle. When I left our tech bridge in our lab, there were 3 warfare centers in there. The NAVC was in there in the form of another mustache Marine that runs the place. Nav Air was in there doing their game of drones exercise, so tampering with a lot of UAS. How can we advance some commercial UAS systems? And NAVFAC was in there doing with their dive locker. So we have underwater construction teams, like their CB divers, and a couple other dive teams from across the country are all in there in our tank doing testing. So like that's the scene that I left when I walked out. Add that to our commercial partners and nonprofit economic development partners, and I think we got a pretty good team at our tech bridge. So if you walk in, somebody there is either a potential customer or can at least point you in the right direction to help advance the TRL of your technology.
Marco Romani. I'm the Central Coast Tech Bridge Director. That's up at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey. So first, a little bit about me. I'll try to keep it short, but I started flying for the Navy before GPS existed, and the computer in my aircraft had all of 128K of memory. So that tells you how long ago that was. So I went from that to when I retired out of the Navy, I was the requirements officer for the MQ-25 program. So that's going to be the first autonomous aircraft that flies off of aircraft. So over that 30-year time period, I went from the Cold War to what I think is the future of naval aviation. And then amongst all of that, that was both in active duty and reserves. While I was in the reserves in my civilian career, worked up in Silicon Valley, did 6 startups, 2 of which did fairly well. And then after I retired out of the Navy, I was a COO of a small company, defense contractor in Torrance for 4 years. So I know what all of you are going through for when it comes to trying to sell into the DoD and taking technology that you think is pretty good, and you're trying to figure out what the con ops are for it and who to talk to. So with that, and that's one of the reasons why I joined NavalX, was I wanted to take that long period of experience of building companies and working with the DoD and trying to help companies like yourselves. And I think for the Naval Postgraduate School Tech Bridge, one of the things that we kind of bring to the fight that probably the rest of the tech bridges don't have is we have literally hundreds of really smart professors across all the domains, warfighting domains. And the other kind of neat thing to that complement is we have 1,500 students who are fresh out of operational experience across all the services, and also from some of our international partners and allies that have the ability that if you have a question on your tech, like how can it be used or what are the con ops for it, many of those people are willing to help you out and try and figure that out.
Okay, two quick ones before one. So when you hear say Warfare Center, that equates to a laboratory. And the Navy's got a lot of laboratories with a lot of incredibly bright folks, and many of you have licensed their technology. And when we said ConOps, concept of operations, how do we use that technology?
Awesome. Sorry if that was too loud. I recently burnt my tongue on coffee, so I'm a little getting used to that. Alan Jaeger with the Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division, Office of Research and Technology Applications Manager, ORTA. So same position that Mark holds, only for the Surface Warfare Center side at Port Hueneme, and co-director for the Ventura Tech Bridge FathomWorks. So a little bit about me, I guess, background. I have worked for the local government, state government, and federal government, private industry, and academic organizations in my career, so I'm probably pretty unemployable. But I think what that has given me is kind of a unique perspective. I can't pretend to be an expert like you guys are on the industry side, but having kind of understood that there's a challenge and a barrier there, and how do we sort of break that down? And I think tech bridges are unique, and NavalX is unique in our ability to be that bridge and be that outpost, as Bob said. As far as kind of piling on to what Mark said about the Ventura Tech Bridge, it's kind of unique. If you've been to a tech bridge before and you've seen one tech bridge, then you've seen one tech bridge, right? Each tech bridge is different. And so Mark kind of alluded to this test tank and this drone cage, and we are very fortunate for the Ventura Tech Bridge, as we have a 60,000 square foot warehouse, basically. And so it is a maker space. It is a place where the Navy has about $20 million worth of equipment to go do AR, VR, fly drones, put things in underwater, on the water. It's a roll up your sleeves, really kind of figure out how to get something done, how to get to that minimum viable product. And so, being that is part of this tech bridge ecosystem, I think that's a value added part of that network. And again, every tech bridge is different, which is great from the outside, because again, no matter what you need, we probably have it somewhere within the ecosystem, somewhere within the network. And so looking forward to, working and supporting anyone who's interested in that. And I know there's some friendly faces in the crowd. Many of you have been up to FathomWorks and the Tech Bridge and part of Coastal Trident. So thank you, and I hope that was useful, and look forward to working with you guys.
All right, Troy Clark, director of the Inland Empire Tech Bridge. Background on me, biochemistry, molecular biology, really focused on in high school, getting inspired by a Navy medical doctor who is also a retired captain and head of the U.S. Naval Medical Reserve Corps. Inspired me to look for drugs from the sea. When I was 18, in this very room, I won the science fair for the Riverside, Inyo, Mono, and San Bernardino counties science fair, best in show. And so when I mentioned, and that was my inspiration, being inspired by this Navy doctor and to go and pursue science. And following that, UC Santa Barbara, ended up going to work for Congress. Spent a decade working for that, trying to leverage my scientific background to bring it for technology policy for our nation. Also had the privilege of working for Congressman Calvert for 10 years in this community, and that introduced me to the Naval Surface Warfare Center Corona, and led to a lot of the relationships that we have here in this room that have been built going on 30 years. As Alan said, each tech bridge is different. We are intentionally designed that way. We're anchored by each warfare center, or Navy or Marine Corps, and that each of us have unique mission sets. With Corona, NSWC Corona, we're data analytics and visualization. We're the engine behind Top Gun, so we do a lot of range systems engineering, and that requires complex networked data environments. And then we're the Navy and Marine Corps' metrology, measurement science, and calibration agents. So we deal a lot with those areas of expertise. And each tech bridge, because of their anchor command, has unique focus areas. So we're each different, but as Alan said, you will find, and we like to say this as well, you connect with one tech bridge, you connect with them all, because we are all passionate about making sure that the right people get connected to the right tech bridge and to the right technology and to the right needs to address any of our warfighting capability gaps. So we're really unique individually, but also collectively we form this tech bridge network that really integrates all of our capability across the Navy and Marine Corps enterprise. And we want to get you connected to us, and even internally with the Navy, as Secretary Gertz used to say, we are a huge organization, and even even internally, we don't necessarily know where to go. So tech bridges were designed to be that super connector, both internal to the Navy and external to the Navy, and ultimately putting that front door out into the community, and that's where we are. And thanks to Riverside County and Riverside Community College District, we have a facility in Norco, our host city, and very different than what you'll see at FathomWorks. So we're more data analytics, lab, test equipment, things like that. And you're since you're an in-service engineering agent, you have the hardcore in your construction and engineering. It's the hardcore industrial capability. So we're all different, but we're all part of this national network as one.
It's a great segue. So one of the street myths out there is you each have a checkbook and you can hand out money to everybody, right? No. But you have incredible resources and you mentioned it, the ability to link with other members of the Tech Bridge, understand the Department of Navy, understand the Marine Corps and the differences, former warfighters, all of you dedicated Americans. So, can you give me an example of one company that you helped maybe not steer them to $1 billion, but help save them some of the frustration when it comes to working with this place called Don? Everybody know who Don is, right? Okay, he's my neighbor, Department of Navy. Okay.
I mean, I have a case study definitely to start with. We had a company, Bunker Supply, out of Santa Barbara. Came in to meet with Alan, so my NAVC counterpart, had a technology that prototype, early stage. They're trying to find a partner to do some cooperative research and development. Listening to it, great people, great company, but it just doesn't fit within their research portfolio. He couldn't really justify taking on that project. I was sitting at the table, eavesdropping as I do, drinking coffee, and I'm listening. I'm like, that kind of sounds like what we do. I mean, that's completely within our mission set. So I slid in next to them and started talking to them, and we wound up signing a cooperative research and development agreement to design wetsuits for the underwater construction teams with the advanced material that they're producing. So fast forward, we're doing that CRADA. They also had a technology that they're like, I don't think it really fits with what you guys do, but we're developing another technology to jettison hard armor for air crews. So if you fall into the water, you need to quickly shed some weight while retaining some survival gear. They're prototyping a tech for that. And like, well, I don't know how we're going to get it tested or what our partners are. I'm like, well, through our Coastal Trident network, we linked them up with Sheriff's Department and the Marine Corps helicopter squadron that went out and tested it. We got our NAVFAC divers into the pool, tested it like a week later. First time it had ever been field tested under a phase 1 SBIR. So they had already done field testing and got end user feedback under a phase 1. And I think the third example from them, because they keep coming back to us, they're awesome. They were applying for an SBIR for manufacturing or prototyping a cart to maneuver a rather large UUV through the hull of a destroyer from the magazine well up into a point where it can be lowered with a davit into the water. And like, we think we can do it. It's a mechanical engineering problem. We got some nice, designers. We got people that can fabricate stuff. But we've never been on a destroyer. Like, I have no idea what that environment looks like. And we said, well, what are you doing after lunch? And we went that day and we took them over on the self-defense test ship, which is a NAVC asset. And they were able to get some design drawings, take some measurements, work with one of their ship's crew, walked them through a retired destroyer that we keep on site for testing. And they were able to apply for that SBIR with a lot more information than they would have had going in cold.
So the Central Coast Tech Bridge has only been around for 7 months, so I can't say that the Central Coast Tech Bridge has helped any companies yet directly, but the Naval Postgraduate School has a event that's called JIFIX. It stands for the Joint Interagency Field Experimentation event, and that happens like clockwork every 90 days. The next one's happening, I believe it's the 13th through the 17th of May. And the beautiful thing about JIFIX is, especially for companies around here, is one, it's just north of Paso Robles. Two, it's at Camp Roberts Army National Guard Base, which is a 20 kilometer by 20 kilometer kind of playground that goes from the surface to 15,000 feet. So if you're a company that's, let's say, in unmanned aerial vehicles, you know how hard it is to find places where you can actually fly your drone above 400 feet. It's practically impossible. This is just send us your paperwork, make sure it doesn't have any Chinese stuff in it, and we welcome you. The next JFIX, as I mentioned, is in about 3 weeks. We have 26 companies that are going to be there, showing 30 different technologies. And two of the kind of wins that I can point to quickly for companies that have come to JFIX, one is a company called Saronic. They're out of Austin. They're a USV manufacturer. And what they did at JFIX was they teamed up with the Naval Postgraduate School, some students at Naval Postgraduate School, and with Starlink and with Anduril. And what they did at JFIX was they used Anduril's command and control system via a Starlink link and command and controlled Saronic's boats that they had in Lake Austin in Austin, Texas. So it was a 1,600 nautical mile real-time event where we had warfighters and acquisition professionals that could sit there and play with the system in real time and give feedback back to Saronic in real time. And then another kind of win is a company called Gans Mountain, who is actually was founded by some NPS or Naval Postgraduate School professors, and they are making software and sensors that can do automatic target recognition. And through JFIX, they got out in front of the right people and have gotten contracts now with the Air Force, where their products are being used at Air Force bases for us perimeter security. So JFIX is open to anyone who wants to come.
You guys hear that too, right? Yeah. Okay. Just to make sure it wasn't my coffee. So I think there's right. There's a lot of great success stories, and so I think we could rattle off another one. A slightly different perspective on that, if I may, Bob, is how do we learn quickly, right? We like to say learn, fail fast, all those fancy words. More importantly, how do we not waste your time as industry, right? You have an idea, you have a concept, you think it's going to solve the Navy's problem. We like to be able to provide that venue through JFIX, through a tech bridge, through Coastal Trident. How do you learn quickly, hey, I need to pivot a little bit, or what I originally thought the end user would need, or how they would use it, turns out it's a little bit differently. And we like to provide that opportunity too. And so those don't sort of bubble up as the big success stories, but I think through that interaction, hopefully with the industry and particularly the small companies, you can learn quickly what you have and how it would be used. And so we can do that through a number of different programs. We also can do that through what's called a CRADA, a Cooperative Research and Development Agreement. Some of you are probably familiar with that, where we can formally partner with the government, with a Navy lab, with a warfare center, maybe provide you with data on a ship or some kind of system that we're interested in, so that you could actually take that data, understand how you'd use it, come up with a minimum viable product or a prototype, and get that collaboration back with the Navy really quickly to learn, okay, I need to pivot, or yes, this works, I need to go get this to market. And so those success stories, I think, are very successful, but they don't always rise up as the big shiny thing. And we have lots of big shiny things, but again, working with the small companies, I think that's a really value added that we can provide, and a success that we're happy to share and sort of open our doors to help facilitate that kind of engagement.
All right, a little bit of a success story after you've heard a little bit about them today, called Axotech. So that was a company that is in the process of licensing a patent from the Warfare Center. The inventor right there is Dr. Subral Sanyal, and it's basically the use case was handheld COVID breathalyzer initially. Then they pivoted to a handheld fentanyl detector. So we were able to get them access into the Ensign Foundry, which is equivalent to our Crucible startup studio, that same curriculum. And then another Ensign program is called Ensign Maker, which the DoD will, if they participated in a DoD incubator program, they will fund for a prototype. So that's the next phase. So we've got them connected with Ensign Maker, that the DoD is going to pay between $50,000 and $100,000 to help them develop a prototype for that. And want to thank Raul Singh from Ensign, who's here with us today, and they've been great partners. And one of the things that we do is we network a lot of the other other existing DoD innovation initiatives and make those connections in there. So we don't kind of duplicate the programs, we overlap, and then we pass off to whoever has the right program for that. And then, so ultimately, you know, we want to get those companies grown, sprouted up, matured, leverage any DoD programs that can help them grow, get them across the valley of death, and ultimately that capability into the hands of warfighters. So great opportunities, and we're just getting started actually. So it'll be exciting to see how many more that we can do that with.
So now I'm going to change it up on you for a second, and I'll use an example. I go to many meetings, have many conversations with small businesses, and I remember one where I looked the gentleman in the eye and go, "No, the Navy won't want that." And his response was, "Thank you so much. You just saved me so much time." So can you give me an example of a no but, where you were able to help a company that maybe wasn't aligned with the Navy, but you found, or you at least gave them a better direction to go with what they were doing?
I'll jump in. So the beauty of T2, or tech transition, tech transfer, is how do we sort of bring capabilities quickly into the government? How do we transition capabilities from the government out into industry through licensing, IP, et cetera? But I think to your point is we as kind of tech bridge directors, and we as ORDAs, Office of Research Technology, Tech T2 professionals, we have pretty strong relationship with our industry partners. And so just like Mark said, hey, a company comes in and talks to me, and it doesn't really fit with something that my lab is particularly interested in, but you know, we can turn it over to another tech bridge through these engagements and through these relationships. I think all the time we're kind of pushing stuff back out. You know, the ideal world is dual use capabilities. And so if as a commercial product, it meets a commercial need as well as a Navy need, I think that's beneficial to everybody. And so we're actively looking at how do we find those partners, even if it doesn't have a Navy need today, you know, down the road that could be something we're looking for. And so we do that locally through the Coastal Trident program, where we're embedded through a partnership intermediary agreement, a PIA, with our local EDC, Economic Development Collaborative, and we run this program, and it has a number of the first responders from all over California. And so a lot of the capabilities that we see maybe don't have a strong Navy fit today, but we can push that out to our local law enforcement who maybe has a similar mission or complementary mission that then can be developed.
Anyone else on that one? So, question for you. Tech bridges are doing great things. You're all West Coast, and we've got 16, and we're actually international, and you're linked together, and we work together a lot. Can you provide any inkling of the direction of Navy's technology needs or shortfalls? If you were doing the crystal ball, would you have anything to say to our audience today? What's the drumbeat you're hearing from the warfighters, the sailors, the Marines? Obviously, everything is, I need it better, faster, cheaper, right? Okay, but what one thing is keeping you up at night because you want to support the warfighter?
Well, one thing I'll point to, similar to what you're saying, but as far as finding an urgent need that winds up highlighting kind of a longer-term strategic need, and something that the tech bridges have all helped out with. If you're familiar with Red Hill, it's like a really bad word for people that are involved. People are ducking away. Red Hill is a fuel facility that's just up the hill from Pearl Harbor, built during World War II, and was built right on top of the Red Hill Aquifer, which gives drinking water to the base. Gravity did its thing, and fuel wound up in the water supply. The base was evacuated because people couldn't, all the water was contaminated. XWIC, the Expeditionary Warfare Center, an element of naval facilities, was tasked like, hey, can we find a technology right now? So a need that we didn't know existed, and then all of a sudden today, this is priority number one. We need to find a technology that can go inspect the aquifer now. We know who's in our local network, in the Ventura area. Immediately reached out to the Tech Bridge system at large and said, hey, we need this is the mission that we have. This is the need that we need, to solve. find a tech that's mature, that's trusted, has some previous experience, and we'll put them on a plane tomorrow to go out to Hawaii. And we're able to find that through the Tech Bridge system. As far as long-term strategic needs, those usually change. Every couple of years, every command is coming out with its own strategic plan, and that's really the job of the folks on these couches, is to figure out who's out there in that space and how can we communicate those needs to industry. I'd say the Navy, big Navy, they want something that's on a shelf ready to go and they can buy it. Our job is to try and ultimately over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years to get stuff on the shelf for the big Navy to buy. So our role is to take those long-term strategic needs from my lab, from NPS, from Corona, and try and get those out to the economic development groups, get them out to industry so they know what they can start working on.
And I'll just say we have, within Naval X, we have the Fleet and Force Engagement Managers that are working with our operational forces to help source the problems that we need to go off as field offices, basically out in the innovation ecosystems to go and look for those solutions. I'll also give you a little bit of a preview of something I hope to showcase next Innovation Summit, and that's we're dealing with California Baptist University's Applied Machine Learning Lab. It's basically going to be a digital tool that is going to be 24/7 using artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science to do a lot of this scouting, connecting for us, so that we are going to be able to rapidly scale this capability of what Tech Bridge directors are doing in their mind and through networking and their relationships in the community. But we'll have a digital tool that will be able to scale across the entire Tech Bridge network, and then I think ultimately the entire DoD. So we are going to have a rapid pulse of technology and capability experts that we need to tap into when we have an urgent need that we have to go rapidly solve, and that's on deck, and we're looking forward to having that rolled out and showcasing it next year. Just a teaser.
So, another question. Give me your balance between innovation, the importance of innovation, of course, but the business of innovation. So how does one great idea actually get realized into a capability for the warfighter? Where would you put the ratio of the secret sauce? It's a tough question. It's a complex business we're in.
So the business of innovation, so a lot of people think that innovation is just this super creative, you've got this edge and you just create stuff and stuff. It's actually a disciplined business process. And so some of the training within Crucible is to think, how do you think innovatively? And it's repeatable, and it's about getting to the 5 whys, about why is that happening, why? And then you ultimately get to the core essence of what you're trying to solve. And then you've also got to pivot, you've got to adapt. So you may have to, you're going after one particular technology solution, but the market's not there yet, or you don't have the technology there yet. So you have to continue to pivot so where you can get that business of innovation, because that the business side is what drives the delivery of capability. So it is an economic, financial aspect to bringing new capability to life and improvement in a product or service. So it's that constant iterative feedback loop of what's going on economically viable, and then technologically, like we heard, I think it was, I forget which company pitched, but the technology wasn't available yet. It was Avalon holographics. A decade ago, technical capability did not exist to do certain things. So it's that constant iterative feedback loop between the business side of it and the innovation side of it.
Just real quick, so I mean, it's a hard question. Innovation is a term we all love, and we're at the Innovation Summit, so I love it just as much as the next person. I think, right, in my mind, it's solving a problem, and articulating what problem is we're trying to solve. And so as the speakers were up here kind of pitching, right, in my mind I'm going, okay, what's the nail that you're looking for, right? And maybe a problem we don't know we have yet, or that we don't understand, and that's when it gets kind of fun, and I think that's when we stick it in the innovation bucket. But I mean, really, in the basic sense, it's solving a problem, and to your point, there is a structure and there's a business way of how you do that, and sort of aligning that high-speed, low-drag innovation ecosystem with sort of the Navy's processes, I think is where events like this can really help, and really, but at the end of the day, in my mind, it's problem solving.
And I would just throw out too that the tricky part, and there's definitely a couple of companies you could talk to that could give you some anecdotes on that, but it's not a linear process. Whether you're trying to, if you're at the point where I have a high TRL thing, I'm just ready for that big contract, that's one discussion. But if you're at the prototype level, you just have some IP, the innovation process, there's a lot of different processes you can take. And I know that can be very confusing to navigate. I mean, every couple months, we all get together as all the tech bridges and find out another tech bridge, figure out another way to do stuff. And that's why we all meet to share those processes. So I would definitely plug to talk to your local tech bridge director, even if they're not tied to a lab that is at all with, related to what you do. Talk to that director so that they know that you're there. They're aware of your technology, and that can get spread, to the other labs. I think I know Torwater that had the pleasure of meeting yesterday. It's not. It's a process that there's going to be multiple pieces to it. It's not you jump in innovation pipeline at the beginning and then you get spit out at the end and like, hey, we did it. And we wish it was that easy. But just be aware of there's different opportunities you can do concurrently with Ensign, with FedTech, with internal to the warfare centers in the labs. Be open-minded to participating in multiple things, because I don't think there's any one innovation process that's going to get you there.
One thing that I've found over the years, both helping mentor companies and even when I was in small industry working in the DoD, is the power of collaboration with other companies. It's there's been quite a few times, like at GIFIX, we really kind of push companies to collaborate. There might be a company that has a really neat UAS and another company that has a cool sensor and someone else that has some amazing autonomy software. And I've seen those companies get together and then go on. And back when I was in industry, I found many times reaching out to companies when I was at a show, let's say a show like this, or out at Sierra Space or Soft Week, when there was something that I thought my company's technology would be able to complement. We've built some really powerful teams out of that. So don't be afraid to work with other companies, because the power of the intelligence of the people that are in this room is just amazing, and especially when you combine it.
Okay. At this point, I think I'm going to get hooked soon, but the final offer. Don't leave here today without asking us the question that you want to ask. Reach out to us. And if you don't think about that question until you're on I-10 stuck in the traffic that Troy says isn't there.
I was dreaming back to COVID days.
Yeah, send the question to Naval X, and we'll get someone to work on that answer. Okay, and with that, your parting remarks. What one thing would you like to impart to the audience today?
I'll just throw out that we are not competitors between us on the Navy side and you as industry. Our role, written in our position description, we're here. We have to build a community of technologists, of our academic partners, to try and solve Navy problems. We want to see you develop. We want to see your TRL raise. We want to see you get contracts. So the role of the tech bridges, try and have that perspective of, we want to bring you in, we want to get to know you, we want to know what you can do, and we can legitimately partner and share resources to move forward. So we try to not see it as an antagonistic relationship, but that we actually want what you want also.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but the world is now in a point of great power competition, and without companies like you, I don't know if we can actually win. We used to have a defense industrial base that had hundreds of prime contractors in it. Back in the early 90s, there's 6 now, and they just don't have all the brain power there. I've actually had companies come to me and say, hey, we don't know where to put our IRAD. IRAD money is money that companies have to do independent research and development. And so they're looking for ideas, and so they're actually looking for companies like you to come up with ideas. So, part of your exit strategy could be that you team up with a prime. So I appreciate you guys all being here and, fighting the good fight, because we're not going to be able to win it without y'all.
Our morning keynote, I wrote this down. Maria said, get your tech in front of the right people. I think I quoted that correctly. She's not here, right? So, okay. Then I quoted it correctly. The point being is NavalX, Tech Bridges, we can help you do that. To Mark's point, to Marco's point, right? We need you. Our job is to partner with you. Our job is to help you navigate through this ecosystem. And when you come to one of us, you kind of come to all of us. I mean, there are 16 Tech Bridge directors. Believe me, we talk all the time, every day, and it's passing information and sharing information. And so come to us not as the customer, right? Bob so eloquently started, we're poor, we got no money. But our job is to help you understand what product you have, how that would fit to a Navy need, and then help you navigate through the various awesome programs that exist out there, both inside NavalX and outside NavalX, help you navigate through that. So partner with us, come to us, don't leave without asking a question. If you can't find Mark, go to Troy, whatever. We can all connect up and help.
Absolutely. I'll just close with echoing everything that was said beforehand and say that this is really a whole of nation approach that we're trying to get at because of the threats that we face from our peer adversaries, near peer adversaries. As Marco mentioned, the erosion of the defense industrial base, we've lost our edge, not because, through consolidation, not because we're not great. We are great. We're a great nation. And that's why, China is stealing from us because they can't, their strategy is rip off, replicate, and replace us. So that's what we're up against. This is a coalition of the willing, building communities like here in the Inland Empire and bringing people together like at the Innovation Summit, all together because we need to work on this common framework of keeping our country ahead technologically so that we can keep the peace. And like you mentioned, you connect with one, you connect with them all. Here at the Tech Bridges, we are here to help you navigate through the departmental bureaucracy that naturally exists in large organizations. And you see, even with Chairman Calvert working with our Pentagon leadership, this is both on the policy side, the executive side. We're all trying to get to the solutions and fielded capability as rapidly as possible. And we use the economic model of people making a profit to go do that because we're tapping into their expertise, their hard work, their courage to start something from nothing to bring us capability. We're going to pay you for it. And that's the American model, is that we don't design it always inside the government. And ultimately, that's what feeds these rich and robust innovation ecosystems around our country.
And with that, please join me in thanking our august panel. I am so honored to get to work with you, gentlemen.